This is my what's it? The Daily with I forgot his name. He doesn't do it anymore. He has such an iconic voice. He goes like, "Welcome to Rebrand, a podcast where we dive deep into the world of church revitalization and growth. I'm Ben Smith, and that's Tim Jones. In today's episode, we're tackling a topic that's near and dear to many small to mid-sized churches out there, leveraging technology on a limited budget."
Do you like that voice better?
I don't know, it sounds nice.
All right. In an age where digital tools have become integral to community engagement and outreach, it's crucial for churches of all sizes to find innovative ways to harness the power of technology. But for smaller congregations with limited resources, this can be a daunting task. But fear not, because in this episode, we'll be exploring practical strategies, cost-effective solutions, and creative approaches that will empower your church to thrive in the digital landscape.
We'll hear a recent success story and provide actionable tips for maximizing your impact without breaking the bank. Whether you're a pastor, a church leader, or simply passionate about the growth of your community, this episode is tailor-made for you. So grab your notepad and pen or open up that digital note-taking app because we're about to embark on a journey of transformation and renewal. Let's dive in.
All right. So let's kick things off about and addressing the fundamental question here. Why is technology?
You should run that again.
I know.
Start.
All right. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
All right. Let's kick things off by addressing the fundamental question here. Why is technology so crucial for churches today, and especially those on limited resources? We're going to turn to the master expert, our multimedia specialist, Ben Smith.
Oh, boy.
All right. Tell us, man, why do churches need technology? Why is it crucial, and especially those on limited resources?
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of questions all packed into one.
It is.
I mean, I don't know if it's so much that it's necessary, but I think it would be ridiculous to say that technology can't improve or maximize the way that you're doing ministry. And so it's not that like you are required as a pastor or a church leader to use technology. Right. But I think my opinion would be that you will be more effective in your ministry when you use the technology available and those that you feel comfortable using.
Yeah. And necessary, if I said that was the wrong word to use, but crucial is is a strong word because everybody's on it.
Yeah. It is so ingrained in our society and in the lives of the people who we are being called to minister to. And so if we were not to engage with our congregants or our community members who are so ingrained in a world of technology, it would be, I mean, we are called to be in the world but not of the world, right? And so to be in the world means to be actively using the technology of the world.
Well, and case in point, I mean, how many people do not have some type of smartphone?
Very few.
You know, whether it's iPhone, Google phones, whatever, Android phones, whatever. One of the things that jumped out at me was last week, I believe, coming back from UMAC. On Sundays, and I'm assuming this is not just for me, but Apple will throw up a notification that says
your screen usage,
how long you've been on your screen usage,
and I up and down from last week,
up and down from the week prior, and mine was up tremendously, and it was because the majority of time when I was at UMAC, being on the design team, we were texting back and forth, we were putting things in the app, we were researching things, and so I was constantly on my phone and having to charge it, and it was up just a tremendous amount. But we're on them all day, all the time.
And
whether you're checking email, it is. Whether you're checking email, you're playing games, you're surfing the net, you're talking on the phone, you are using this little 4 or 5 inch device more than anything else you have at your house for the most part.
Yeah.
And so if we don't find ways to connect with people that are doing that, we're losing an opportunity to spread the gospel.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is, if not necessary, whatever one step below necessary is, maybe, I don't know. It's something that we really need to be using in ministry. So with that in mind, what are some important lessons or things to keep in mind when we look at technology use in the church, especially in our small and mid-sized churches?
So we're really wanting to take a major focus today on the episode on small and mid-sized churches, because that's who Holston is for the most part. I mean, we've got some large churches and we love our large churches, but for every large church we have 30 small to mid-sized churches, if not more than that. And so we want to put our focus on that. So I think the first thing that I want to say is, when you're thinking about using technology as a small to mid-sized church, do not focus on the mega churches. Yeah. These large churches that have a huge budget. Some of these mega churches and large churches, their technology budget is larger than the small church entire budget.
Oh, most definitely. And several times over.
No way that you should focus on comparing yourself to that. Yeah. But instead of trying to emulate, try to find ways that can focus on your audience in your community. And that's a big thing. And maybe we'll do a podcast about this sometime. You really need to focus on your community to see what it is that's around
that you're in.
Yeah, what's around your church.
Yep. Well, and I think when I look at this, it's normal for any of us to look to those that we think are more impressive than us, to try to, we do that in our personal lives, right? The people who we are impressed by, who we look up to, we try to be like them. Or the people we think are knocking it out of the park, we try to be like them. That is normal.
And you really, I'm giving you permission. You don't have to be like me anymore.
I
need to
try
be
to
yourself.
Be like Tim in all things that I do, and sometimes that gets me in trouble.
It probably, oftentimes.
But I think it's not even just our looking to mega churches, but even looking to the larger churches in Holston. We Annette this week put out a list of the top churches, the top 10 churches, and it's not gonna work for our smaller churches, which is the majority of our churches, to be like Cokesbury, Concord, Christ, any of those churches. It's not gonna work. You mentioned that like a tech budget being larger than some church budgets. So I used to be on staff at Concord,
right?
And we had 2 full-time staff people for as a technical director and a creative director, and then on Sunday mornings we would have 2, 3, or 4 paid positions staffed for the morning. And I don't say that to show off or to gloat, but that was the context that we were in. Right. That was the budget that we had to work with, the congregation we were working with, and the size of the church that necessitated that budget and that staffing. That's not the reality of 90% of our churches.
That's right.
More than 90% of our churches.
Yeah.
And so it would be doing yourself and your church, your congregants and your community a disservice to try to emulate that, because you will fail. And I'm not trying to talk down to anyone here. It's the reality. You need to minister to the people in your church. You're not ministering to some imaginary congregation of 1,000. You're ministering to the 20 people who sit in your pews.
Right.
You're
and
ministering
there's nothing
to
wrong
the
with
few
that.
hundred people in your town.
Yep. And that's what you're called to do, and to embrace that calling, but to do it in the best way you can. That's what we're here to try to help folk with today.
And there's a lot of opportunity in that too. There are so many things that you can do as a small church pastor that are not possible to do as a large church pastor.
Yep.
And there are ways that you can use technology as a small church pastor that you can't get away with doing as a large church pastor.
Yep, and we're going to dive into those things here pretty quickly. But what's some other reasons, or what's some other tips that we can tell our churches to when it comes to using technology?
Yeah, this is another one that and these lists, we have 4 things here. These are all kind of things that we have talked to when we've gone out and done seminars or trainings, especially on social media. These are the same kind of tips that we give. So the next one is only do as much as is sustainable.
That's right.
So don't get on a kick and say, I'm going to use social media more, I'm going to use technology more, and for a month, for a week, or even for 6 months, you're knocking it out of the park. You're sending an email a day, you're posting videos all over social media, you're doing that, you're live streaming everything, and then you burn yourself out after a month, and you go back to posting on Facebook once every 6 months.
Yep.
That's not effective.
Right.
If anything, that is making it harder to succeed in the future.
And counterproductive.
Counterproductive.
Yep.
So maybe start small and build.
Right.
And only do as much as you truly believe you can continue to do in perpetuity. I mean, only that which is sustainable.
Yep. And again, a lot of the churches that we're talking to right now, it's solo pastors.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's part-time pastors that have a full-time job, because we all know there's no such thing as part-time ministry. And this doesn't need to become a hindrance, and it doesn't need to be something that you feel like is a burden. This needs to be just an additional ministry tool that you can use to help enhance your current ministry, because you want to focus on what you are passionate about, what you're good with, and then take some of these tools again just to help enhance.
Well, and that makes me think, you and I were on a Zoom call, just kind of consulting with a group last night about how they wanted to use social media.
Yes.
And they were trying to find someone to take over or actually to start and grow their Instagram presence. And no one really stepped up that was on that call because no one felt passionate about it. And I think that group is going about it the perfect way, because they're not saying, all right, well, no one is really passionate about it, but I guess I can do that if no one else wants to.
Right.
They're waiting, and they're saying, we're not going to do anything until we find someone who's passionate about doing it.
That's exactly right.
And so I think that the next step, the logical next step there is, if you're as the pastor, if you're the only person at a church, don't do something, when we're talking about social media, don't do something that you're not passionate about.
Yeah.
Or that doesn't play into your strengths. Because as a single employee of a church, you can't do everything. So you really should only be doing the stuff that you're good at.
That's right.
Or that you feel called to do. That doesn't mean don't do things that aren't comfortable.
Right.
Don't do things that are uncomfortable
or hard.
But it's saying, do the things that you think you're going to be successful at. Use your time efficiently.
Yep.
And so that means sometimes saying no to the things that seem like they would be cool to do, but don't fit your context or your skill set.
And share ministry.
Ooh.
Don't take ministry away from people. I think sometimes we don't look at that as pastors. We're trying to do things because we want it done a certain way, or we feel like we can do it better. But in some ways, we're being selfish. We're not allowing other people to live into their call because we're not sharing that ministry. So
empower people in your church.
Empower
Wow,
people. Yeah. Hey, another thing to think about is when we talk about technology, and Ben and I, we joke about it all the time, about me being the old one and him being the young one.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when people think social media or they think videos, it's all about getting young people into the church. And while, yes, younger people use technology more and in a more consistent way, I almost said efficient. I don't know if it's necessarily efficient, but it's in a more consistent way.
Yeah.
Using technology does not need to be your focus to reach younger people. Using technology is a way to diversify to reach different people than what you're currently reaching. It's also a way to enhance your ministry,
Yep.
but don't focus on this is simply to try to bring in younger people, because that's not going to do it. There's
missing the point
so
a little
many
bit there.
things
Yeah.
that have to happen to change the DNA, the culture of your church. But that doesn't mean you can't reach people that are similar DNA in your church by technology.
Yeah, definitely. I think about like my extended family, so immediate family, grandparents, aunt and uncle, have a group chat. It's a lot of fun. But my brother, who's 8 years younger than I am, barely posts at all in the group chat. My sister and I post a little bit.
Yeah.
My parents post a good bit. My grandparents, so much. So much. I get a picture a day. We're on the golf course. Your grandmother cooked a great dinner this evening. Here's a picture of it. They're the ones that are using that technology more than I am, more than my, how old is he? 19-year-old brother is using it, so technology is not just for the kids.
What a
right?
great story. Yeah. That's such a great story to drive home that point.
And especially, we talk about Facebook all the time, and I think that's still one of the best tools you can use as a church communicator, pastor. Your target audience on Facebook is 50 plus, 60 plus.
Yep.
I use Facebook as professionally because I kind of have to for work. In my personal life, I don't really use Facebook, and most people my age, I'm on the cusp, really.
Sure.
Like people my age in their mid to late 20s have Facebook, but I'm not your target audience on Facebook.
Right. It tends to be for younger people. It definitely tends to be for business use.
Yeah. Or keeping up with your older
that's right.
family members.
That's right. It is still by far the largest grouping platform. Yeah. It has the most people and dwarfs all other social medias.
Yep.
So it's still where the people are.
Yeah.
But as far as what it's used for, that has changed.
Yep.
A
All
little
right.
bit.
Here's the last one.
Yep.
Technology in ministry can be a time-saving strategy.
Absolutely.
So when we talk about, especially in the small church context, time is your most valuable resource, right? That's the thing you run out of.
Always.
Talk about if you're bivocational, holy cow. It's all about trying to find ways to maximize your time or to do the best with the small amount of time that you have. Or to give yourself some margin to be able to sustain your ministry. I think you have a lot of, there's a lot that you can get out of technology here to save your time. So I think my mind immediately goes to artificial intelligence.
Yep.
And that's a new technology, a new strategy that has a whole bunch of time-saving possibility there. We're going to have a guest on later in the episode who's going to talk about some time-saving artificial intelligence tools and strategies that he's using. What are some other ways that you think technology can be a time saver?
Just getting the word out, and especially when it comes to if most people are hearing your communications on Sunday morning, then that means you are limited to a 15, 20, 30-minute window out of that hour because you're not always talking. And so I think by far the greatest way to get information out is going to be through the different ways that you can use technology. But like you said, I think that using some AI tools, using the internet, you're able to get research done quicker. You're able to find stories. You're able to keep up with what's going on in the news, not only on a global context, but in your local context. And that's important to know what's going on and how it affects you and your church and your people, and getting some information out, whether it be prayer, whether it be a time to gather for something, a time to celebrate.
Yeah.
You can grab things like that. What about for you?
Well, I mean, I also think getting information, feedback from your congregation.
Yep.
So whether that's, maybe it's scheduling also, right? Trying to schedule something with your
Time management
with your congregation, or getting feedback from something that you have put out there. Or maybe it's interacting throughout the week with your congregation. So rather than having to go to every kid's soccer game or dance practice or competition or whatever, or maybe it's having to go to the coffee shop every other day to meet with all these different people, you can engage with some of the members of your congregation on social media. It's not the same. It's not a direct replacement for in person. But it is a way to keep your church, your ministry top of mind with some of your congregation.
Yep. All right. So we've talked about the importance. We've talked about why it's crucial. Now let's get into some tech that can be used by virtually anyone, because it's either free, it's low budget, it's no budget. But maybe before we do that, let's answer the question, what is low budget or no budget?
I mean, that's the question, I guess. I don't have the answer. I mean,
well, that's what makes,
what do our church budgets look like?
Right, exactly. That's what makes this a little bit difficult, because we're talking about small to mid-sized churches, but some of this can affect even your larger churches, because if they have no budget for technology, then they're in the same boat as a small church. So it's hard to define what that no budget is, but we have some tools that we're going to talk about now that no matter what your budget is, you can utilize them immediately.
Yeah.
And so what are some of those?
Well, let's hit some of the ones that people probably already at least are familiar with, whether they're using them or not. So I want to hit Zoom first, because we are at this point all familiar with Zoom.
Yes.
Some of us wish that we were no longer familiar with Zoom. But I mean, we saw in the last few years what a tool that can be for any size church in any context. I mean, I think maybe every single one of our churches in Holston used Zoom in some capacity.
In some capacity, yeah.
I mean, many of them are still using Zoom regularly. I was at my local church on Wednesday, and one of their like small group classes, they offer these like short-term seasonal classes rather than ongoing classes. One of the courses they were offering was hybrid. They were just offering it online and in person. And so they had people on a Zoom call that were part of the small group. So they're still, even now, even though they are back to doing the in-person, back to doing all their normal stuff, they're still doing that online, that hybrid stuff. Yeah. Because they've found value in that. They are reaching people that otherwise would not be able to be involved.
Exactly.
For whatever reason. So
I really think several years ago when I first came into the United Methodist Church, I started at PAL, United Methodist Church, and I think when I first started, the title was Pastor of Assimilation, and that was basically, right? That was basically helping people to get connected in ministry and discipleship in small groups. And the big thing that we ran into, the hardest thing, was the middle-aged adults that had small children. What do we do for the kids? And it's difficult. Childcare is difficult for small groups, because if you hire people, they've already worked an 8-hour day when they're coming together for an evening time, or it's on the weekend. And sometimes childcare can be difficult. However, if you have a hybrid or a Zoom small group, then you're just allowing people that maybe wouldn't be able to come to be able to jump on.
Yep.
Because they can hang out with their kids and still watch on TV. And still participate, or they can close their screen down, they can mute, they can do what they need to do and then come back and still be a part of that. The other thing is meetings. How many times in some of our smaller churches have meetings been canceled because we didn't have a quorum, we didn't have enough people there, and Zoom will help take care of that. So people can use Zoom. There's a free version out there. I think you get 45 minutes free.
Yep.
You can also do a paid version that's less than $20 a month that gives you more time. But I think for our solo pastors, I would actually recommend the 45-minute time because it helps.
Some nice guardrails there for you.
Yeah. You have to end it, and so
I will say, I mean, I think there's a time and a place for Zoom, and it's not everywhere and always.
Absolutely,
there are things, there are types of interactions where you really want to push for in person.
Yes,
wherever possible, and sometimes I think we swing too far onto the make it as accessible as possible because you miss some things when you're not in person. You miss the communion of being together as a body of Christ, and there are parts of that you miss by not being in the same room together. And so I think there are, even for groups which meet online, maybe it's every once in a while you say, hey, we do weekly online or hybrid. Monthly, we really want to encourage you all to come and have this special meeting together just so you can see the people that you're familiar with on screen, come and meet them in person.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right, what other tools?
So another one, you kind of touched on it, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, but it's texting. Yeah. Texting is a great way to stay connected with people in your church, with families. I want to share just a brief story on a way that you could use this. In your small groups or church groups or family groups, whatever it may be, just start a group and have someone post a sentence prayer and rotate that. And the sentence prayer every day, someone, when you get up, you open your phone and someone has posted, hey, just want you all to know that I'm thinking about you, praying for you. And if there's something specific, hey, I know that Ben's got this interview because he's about to lose his job at Holston. He's going for an interview today, so let's remember him in prayer. We give our listeners the down low here. Whoa. So look for ways to use everyday technology. Yeah. Look for new ways to incorporate that. So
I think that one also leans into the opportunity that you have as a small church that you don't have as a large church.
Yep.
It's not sustainable for a large church pastor to text every person every kid who has a test that week, or every church member who is going in to have lab work done at the hospital, or to be involved in the day-to-day of their congregants. It's not possible.
Right.
But at the local church level, you have that opportunity. I'm not saying you don't have to know everything that's happening in all your church members' lives, but you can engage with your congregation on a more one-on-one or small group level that you just can't do as a large church.
Well, and what I was saying there too, it's not just the pastor. Maybe the pastor starts, and the first 3 or 4 days or the first week, the pastor's the one that gets it going. But then maybe you tag someone. So I send the prayer today, and then I say, tag, Ben, you're it for tomorrow. And then it just continues to be cyclical.
Like
okay,
that.
What's another one?
I mean, this is always a go-to. Also, Canva is a fantastic tool.
What is Canva?
Canva is basically all things graphic design, all things social media graphics. You can do all your, like, if you do print media, you can do slides for presentations, for sermon slides. You can do your bulletin. You can do, anything and everything graphic design. Canva does it, and 99% of it you can do for free.
Yeah.
It's basically, I mean, if you're familiar with the idea of Photoshop, it's basically Photoshop, but it's web-based and it's free, and it's way easier and more accessible.
Drag and drop.
Yeah, it is. It is the epitome of drag and drop.
Yep. And now they have a new Magic Studio. I mentioned this in the last episode. I couldn't remember the name of it, which is an AI base that even helps you even more.
Yeah.
They do have a Pro Tool. The Pro Tool typically costs you money, but it gives you way more elements to be able to pick from your pictures, from your designs, and things like that. And here's something that I'm surprising everyone, even Ben, with.
Wow.
For our rebrand listeners, for the next 2 weeks. So, well, let's say the month of November. If you reach out to me as a rebrand listener, and you do not
as a Holston Conference pastor.
Nope. This is a rebrand listener only. So I will quiz you.
Talk to the people.
That's right. I will quiz you. I will quiz you to make sure that you are truly listening to Rebrand or watching Rebrand. But if you reach out to me, I will put you on the Holston Conference Canva account, and you will get the pro version for free.
Ah, shoot.
Wow.
Where does that... I hit it first, but it was covered up.
Let's try to get that a little bit better.
Yeah, do it again. Hold on. Do it again.
You will get the pro version for free.
That's for you, Tim. That's the people. The people are clapping for you.
It's the people. The people are going for it. So,
I wasn't going to give it to you, to be honest. I was going to say no.
He's so stingy. But we will look. We can also, if you're interested and need help with this, we can put some training together to show you how quick and easy it is to make graphics for your emails, for your bulletins, things like that. So just reach out to us.
It's also a really great tool. I mean, once you really familiarize yourself with it and you do some setup on your end, you can make it so that you can kind of make some templates or some brand guides to then empower some volunteers to do some of that work for you.
Absolutely.
You can set some of the parameters for how they're using it or what you're looking for, and then say, here's the colors that we use, here's the fonts that we use, here's the logo, and then this is what I'm looking for you to make, and let them take it from there.
And here's a cool thing. Canva, and this is going to move us right into the next tool that Ben will talk about, but Canva, you can create Facebook post graphics, Instagram reel videos, you can do graphics for Instagram, so on and so forth, and you can link your account and it goes straight to social media, and social media is another one of those tools that we want to let people know.
That was
this
a
is
professional segue.
Oh, thank you.
Well done. Yeah, no, social media. It's another free tool. Obviously, I mean, I think you all probably know that most of our churches are using social media to some degree, and there's always new and better ways that you can use social media, because the way the best use industry standard is always evolving.
Yes.
Across different platforms, it's evolving. I mean, you look at like TikTok, and every day there's a new trend. So my advice on TikTok is don't try.
Yeah.
I mean, unless your context is overwhelmed. I find it hard to believe that many of our churches are in a context where TikTok is an effective use of their time.
Right.
I just don't think it is.
There's probably some.
Maybe that will change, but for now, maybe there are some.
And I totally agree with you. I think that if you do not have the time to spend, and the audience that we're talking to, I don't think that TikTok is the way to go.
Prove us wrong. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us if you think we're wrong, and I'd be happy to listen.
But,
but the other platforms.
Yep.
Facebook, that's going to be your bread and butter.
Absolutely.
It just is. It's the most accessible. There's 20 billion people are on Facebook. No, but it is I think it's legitimately 3 billion users on Facebook or something. It is overwhelmingly the largest social media platform. And so many of your congregants are going to be on Facebook. There's also just so many different ways that you can use it. You're posting videos and pictures. That's huge. You can create events. and promote events. You can get RSVPs for your events. You can do all this kind of stuff surrounding single events or repeat events. You can create groups, and so you as a pastor or your page for your church can have groups, open or closed, where people can join your group for maybe they're looking for insider information on the church. So once you're an active attender or member, then you can invite those people in to be in a group, and they hear some more information that, not that it's a secret, but it's not going to be helpful or interesting to visitors.
Right.
So you just can kind of organize your communication between externally focused and internally focused communication. You can have groups for specific things, like a Bible study or a life group can have their own group. That could be a closed group where only specific people who are invited or who are approved to be in the group can be in that group. So that way they can do stuff on a little bit of a deeper level. They can share prayer requests. They can have conversation between group members, similarly to how a group might meet in person, right? So you start to develop relationship with the people that are in your group. You can live stream on Facebook. Sure. A lot of churches use Facebook as their main platform for live streaming. And we talked about this earlier. Don't emulate large churches.
Right.
And I really should have up there talked a little bit about live stream. It's great to live stream your service if you can do that. And if you can do that to a level of production that you are happy with. That is maybe the number one question that I get.
Sure.
Is how does my church live stream? We need to be, I know we need to be live streaming. We haven't been live streaming. I feel so bad because we haven't been live streaming. We have 10 people in the pews, and I know that we could get 10 more if we were live streaming. And maybe they work so hard to scrape together a few $100s or $1,000 to get the equipment that they need to live stream, because that's going to get people. And I'm like, I just don't think that's the most effective way to use your time and your resources.
Yeah.
There are some contexts where live streaming makes sense. There are many contexts where live streaming your church service makes sense, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that every church needs to be live streaming.
Yeah. And that is also not necessarily... It doesn't have anything to do with the size of the church.
Yeah,
there are some small churches that are doing some brilliant things on live streaming,
Absolutely.
And there are some large churches that, that really,
not be live streaming.
they really shouldn't, because it's really. For that small church that I was talking about that's doing well, it's because it's a passion of someone at the church that has some technological ability and wants to put things to that. Whereas the larger church, they're doing it because they're a larger church and they've been told that they have to do it.
Yeah.
And it shows, and you don't want that whatsoever.
Yeah. I would say, I think that it is helpful. I think a box that you can check is some form of worship on your social media.
Definitely.
And that there are a lot of ways to do that aren't live streaming.
Yep.
So we still have a lot of churches who will film and post-produce an entire service.
Yeah.
And put that on social media weekly or monthly or bi-weekly. Or maybe it's just a devotion that you are, with your phone, hit record, do your devotion, hit stop, put it up. No editing needed. That's worship. Maybe it's you have a service and every once in a while you film your choir doing a song and you put just that song up on social media. It doesn't have to be highly produced. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to sound perfect. but maybe it's every once in a while putting up a musical moment.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to do it.
Let me do case in point here. I was at a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I guess it is. I went to a Queen concert. Queen, I've mentioned before on here, they're my favorite band. And if you go to my social media channel, you're going to see where I took my phone and I recorded, and it's not great video. It's
Sure.
not great audio, but it was a moment. And there were people commenting and liking, not because of the video and audio quality, but because it was something on there and it was an experience. And that's what we can highlight with some of our churches as well.
That said, I mean, the quality that's coming out of your cell phone is not awful.
That's right.
By any means. It's not bad at all.
No.
In the right context, in the right situation, it can be really good. I mean, if your lighting is good, the image quality is going to be better than a budget camera.
Yeah.
The audio, if you're close enough, is going to be better than if you tried to take a step towards a professional setup.
Yeah.
I have this conversation again a lot with churches, and they say, we've been live streaming with a phone, and we want to step up to something more professional, and we have X amount of money. The number is really not important. The jump from live streaming on your phone to a more permanent professional setup, but to get to a place where you are seeing improved quality of your live stream is a significant jump. And so most of the time in money,
it's going to cost you a significant amount of money to make the jump from quality, from iPhone quality to professional camera that is a higher resolution and better quality. Yeah, I'm with you.
And so more times than not, my answer to that question is don't. Just keep using your phone.
Yeah.
And we can talk about ways to improve the quality of your live stream that's still going through your phone.
Exactly.
So we can talk about, if you have a sound system with a soundboard, we can talk about ways to get audio from the soundboard into your phone.
Yeah.
We can talk about different ways to maybe we can look at your lighting. We can look at getting the phone in a better position, closer to the stage or to the altar or to the pulpit.
Right.
A lot of times, the best solution involves a phone if you're trying to live stream your service. So,
we've got another tool that we're going to talk about here in just a moment, but we're going to make a segue into that. But before we go much further, one of the things that we hope that you have understood as we've been talking about this, everything that we've mentioned, from texting, Zoom, Canva, your social media, your live streaming. One of the things we didn't talk about was perhaps a web presence. Email is always going to be out there for a low budget. I mean, everyone still uses email, so that's still a way to contact and people and get word out. But everything that we've talked about can be done on this one piece of equipment that
you probably 90%
or more already have. Someone in your church probably has this device. So it's just a great way to utilize technology that people are using to enhance your ministry. Now, we could spend so much time. Matter of fact, I'm looking over here, and it looks like we're in the 40-minute mark, somewhere in there. Sure. And we originally talked about we were going to spend like 20 minutes up to this point. But you can see we're passionate about this. We want to help you, and that's what I want to say. If you need more information about some of these things we've talked about, you want more information, just reach out to us. We would love to meet with you, whether that's over Zoom, whether that's coming out to your church to say, hey, here's some ideas that you could think about, or putting trainings together for groups that are wanting to learn about that. We want to do things to help resource your church and your ministry. But the next tool, the final tool that we want to talk about, we mentioned in the last episode, and that is artificial intelligence.
We did.
And
We got some feedback.
We did.
We got a few people that said, hey, that's cool. I want to hear more about
Yep.
that. Or, hey, that's cool. I've tried it out, and I think that's going to make an impact on my ministry.
Yep.
And so one of those stories that we heard was from a friend of ours, Wayne Cook.
Yep.
Longtime listener.
Long-time
listener. He was here at the conference office this weekend for Local Pastor Licensing School. He's on the design team. He's one of the leaders for the licensing program that we run here for local pastors. We convinced him to sit down with me. I got to do a little one-on-one conversation with him to hear about how he has started. He's new to it. How he's started using artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, as a ministry tool for him, as a time-saving tool for him. That was big in hearing what excited him about artificial intelligence was the time-saving capacity. So check out this conversation that I had with Wayne Cook on artificial intelligence as a ministry tool. I'm here with Wayne Cook, a listener of the pod and a friend and colleague of ours. Wayne is a local pastor here in Holston in the Scenic South District at McFarland UMC.
Right.
We love to hear from our listeners, especially how they might be trying to build on the tools and strategies that we discuss on the pod. We've talked a lot about artificial intelligence, especially last episode, and Wayne has started experimenting with ChatGPT as a ministry tool. Wayne, thanks for coming in the studio with me.
I'm glad to be here, Ben.
So the first question, perhaps the most important question, which of the rebrand hosts is your favorite?
Well, you, of course.
Great.
Would
You
be,
took far too long to answer that question. That was a layup, and you failed.
Oh, well.
But thank you.
Oh, well.
Very good. Well, no, we're glad you're here. Tim is distraught that he couldn't be here to be a part of this conversation, but we're filming this as we're both here for Local Pastor Licensing School.
And, of course, that's his story, and he's sticking to it, right?
That's his story, and he's sticking to it. He's busy or something. I don't know. All right, well, let's get into it. I want to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. Specifically, this episode, the whole episode, we've been talking about how we can use technology at the small and medium-sized churches.
Right.
So would you tell us just briefly about McFarland, the church that you are a pastor of, and some of the maybe the challenges or just the unique situation of pastoring at a small to medium-sized church?
Okay. McFarland is an urban church. We're in a community that's been in transition for 60 years, and that transition has been on a downward spiral. It's a former milling community. It's literally 100 feet south of the state line between Tennessee and Georgia, which puts the community into a unique situation in which, because of the amount of poverty that surrounds us, I really get the feeling that Walker County, Georgia, would like to give us to Tennessee. And Tennessee doesn't really want to take us, because the thing that I find, having gone from a church that deals with amazing rural poverty to a church dealing with urban poverty, is that when you don't that people, especially with the more serious mental health issues, are the ones who migrate to the cities because that's where the services are.
Okay.
But what we have found is that as Walker County has pulled services out of Rossville, that we have people that are really stuck in a no-win situation. It depends on what side of the state line they're living on, and it's almost like that line is an invisible wall, and the people that are south of it have it a lot harder than the people who just live on the other side of the line in Tennessee, because the services just are not available. And it makes it very interesting and very heartbreaking to be in ministry, because we do have a high homeless population that we work to minister to. We have, I am blessed in that this is a church that is striving to do what they can in the community. We have a free store that is serving about 80 families a month. Folks can come in and they can get clothing, they can get personal care items, they can get food, and all of this kind of thing. And this congregation, even with the fact that they are of an average age of around 77, 78, they're tired. Let's face it, they're 77, 78 for the average age, and a lot of them have been part of this congregation for their entire lives. But they are seeking to do what they can for the community that they're in, and they're always coming up with ideas for new kinds of ministry to try, and that's exciting.
That is exciting.
But we're a small congregation. We average around 30 to 35 people on Sunday live, with another maybe 35 or 40 that I can track, that are paying attention online. We don't do a full service online. We just record the sermon and make that available through a very low-tech means of sermon by phone, and then taking the MP3 of the service of the sermon and including that with a blog post every week, and then making that available through Facebook as well. So, and that process normally takes me about an hour every Sunday to rip the audio down and add a little tag on the front and the back to introduce it as a pod thing, and then to get it up, and then to edit the blog post and all that goes with it. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, let's dig into that.
Okay.
So you shared with us, with Tim and myself, that you do this weekly blog style post alongside your sermon recording. And last week, or in the last couple of weeks, maybe, you have tried a new strategy that involves artificial intelligence.
Right. On your last episode, you were talking about using artificial intelligence to help aid in ministry. You even went so far as to use AI to write the email that went out advertising what y'all were doing here on the podcast with that, and you made it sound so easy. And I'll admit that when I first heard of ChatGPT, I signed on and played around with it a little bit, and I was thinking, oh, I don't really see how I can use this in ministry, but y'all had some good ideas. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to take what I did last week, take my sermon from last week, and see how it does in making a summary blog post, which I try to do when I attach
something you're already
to
doing
something that
weekly.
I'm already doing on a weekly basis. And when it all came down to it, I imported or copied and pasted the sermon into the dialogue, and within just a few seconds, it had a blog post ready. I went in and tweaked that a couple of times, maybe 10 minutes total, first time trying this, and the AI did a better job of summarizing my sermon than I did, and I'm the one who wrote the sermon. So I was intrigued, and just to try things out last night, for example. This Sunday, I know what I'm already doing because I'm here for licensing school. I went on ahead and made sure that everything was done for this weekend in advance. And I plugged the sermon in, got the blog post. Again, this maybe took all of 30 seconds last night to copy and paste this and get it the way I wanted it. Maybe 2 minutes. Okay, maybe 2 minutes. And so I've got the blog post ready to go, and all I'll have to do is drop the audio in on that audio file in on that tomorrow, and then played around with some other stuff last night, just thinking, okay, let's see what we can do with this. And I ended up getting some meditations on grace and from a Wesleyan foundation. Changing the parameters that I was using and stuff, and just playing around with it to see what would happen.
So what does that look like? So you said you specified that you wanted it from a Wesleyan perspective.
I wanted it from a Wesleyan
what
perspective. Okay.
What did that back and forth look like?
Okay, the back and forth look like, I would like you to write a meditation on grace from a Wesleyan perspective.
Okay.
Summarize what the Wesleyan perspective of grace is, and then provide insights on how a person could use this as a meditation or as a devotional. And it came back with I thought something that was really neat. That touched on all three phases of grace as we see it from a Wesleyan foundation, with prevenient, sanctifying, and justifying grace, and all this, and did a good job of explaining what those things were, and then coming up with some good guided ways to help a person reflect on how grace has worked in their life.
That's cool.
And then I went in and said, okay, this is really neat. And I thought, okay, let's try something else. And I asked it to write Advent wreath meditations, Advent wreath liturgy that you could do at home, and gave it the parameters of faith, hope, joy, and love.
Yep.
And within just a few seconds, boom, it was there.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow, this is some stuff that I can use.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with, I think the more that you practice with it, the better it can become.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Interestingly enough, so you brought up the Wesleyan means of grace as something that you tried out. I actually tried something very similar. And when I was trying to kind of test the limits of or the strengths of ChatGPT, I ask it to explain the Wesleyan means of grace on three different levels, as if you were speaking to a kindergartner, to a lifelong Methodist, and to a doctoral level religious scholar.
Okay.
And it, again, like that, it pumped out three sets of explanations, and they were amazing. I mean, it was it correctly and succinctly explains all three types of grace in the Wesleyan tradition, as if it was speaking to a kindergartner in very plain language. It used some examples, some metaphor, then to a lifelong Christian, and then in a much longer response to a doctoral level religious scholar. It was really kind of amazing.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah. So those things, so a devotion on grace. You talked about some Advent wreath devotions or liturgy. Are those the type of things that you would write yourself and publish, or would that be something extra that you haven't done before that you would consider adding?
Yes and no.
Okay.
For the most part, yes, the Advent wreath thing. I'm actually going to use it at church because I've after 18 years of using the same Advent readings for the lighting of the Advent candle. I thought, okay, this looks good. It'd be nice to use here. So we're going to do that at Christmas. I'm going to take a look at seeing if some other blog posts and stuff like that, because I'll admit it gets back when blogging first got started. I was doing at least 3, maybe 4 posts a week.
Wow!
Starting back in 2004, that lasted for maybe 6 years. And
that's a good run.
Yeah, it was. And unfortunately, I got frustrated one night and just deleted the whole thing and didn't back it up before I got frustrated.
Oh boy!
But there may be some form of it out there. I don't think anything ever completely goes away.
Once it's out there, it's never gone.
But that was fun. But I need to find some ways to really try and connect, not only with the church on a more consistent basis. And this would give me that opportunity to maybe put together some quality stuff that won't take a lot of my time. Now, when I'm saying that, of course, I'm not saying, okay, I can toss this off and never look at it, and
Sure.
because you want, if I'm going to say that I'm doing this, and I will be honest with folks that I'm getting some help in doing this, but I think if there are ways that I can use to improve that communication with the church, while also giving some respect to the limited amount of time that I have personally to devote to that, that it can be a win-win situation all the way around.
Yeah. Earlier in the episode, Tim and I talked about using technology and communication as a small church pastor, where you are most likely the only employee of the church or one of few. And one of the keys that we said was consistency and longevity. Right. So don't do something that you can't maintain.
Right.
Don't take on too much and then burn yourself out.
Exactly.
And I think that is where artificial intelligence can be of huge benefit to small church pastors, because it allows you to do something that otherwise would take up too much of your time to be sustainable.
Well, and I think, too, I wish that this was a tool that I had been aware of, or that would be available to us when we first got started with COVID.
Yeah.
Because the communication was so essential, and then that was a time when I actually stepped up my game to try and do more. I was most of our folks at church have Facebook, so I was using Facebook and Facebook Live to do things with the church to get that message out there and to keep that contact, because we were stuck at home. We couldn't do anything. And with an older congregation, I certainly was not going to try and get out and visit with folks because we didn't want to have people dying just because the preacher visited.
Right.
And that was the kind of activity that I was doing was unsustainable, to be honest with you, for just me and my thank goodness I did have an administrative assistant to do a lot of the other stuff, the mundane office stuff that had to be done. But that takes a lot of energy to do the kind of communication that you need to do, especially in that kind of situation.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time. We do have some local pastors who are in the other room waiting on us. But my last question: as you continue to experiment with ChatGPT, or maybe step outside of ChatGPT to some other artificial intelligence tools, how else do you see artificial intelligence being uniquely beneficial to the small church pastor?
Well, I think I've already articulated this, but anything that local pastors or small church pastors, especially if they are the Lone Ranger, if they are the only staff member of the church, are always looking for ways to work smarter, not necessarily harder. Yep. And the benefit that I see that AI can offer us is a way to work smarter. And it's going to come with just, I think, the practice of just sitting down with it, playing with it, throwing the parameters out and seeing what comes back, and then finding ways to tweak that. Because any tool, the more you use it, the more ways that you can find to use it to your benefit. And for this example, to the benefit of the congregation as well.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to doing that experimentation.
That's awesome. All right. Well, do you have any closing words for our listeners, or for Tim, who wasn't able to join us?
Missed you, Tim.
All right. Thanks so much, Wayne.
Thank you, Ben.
Man, that was such a good conversation with Wayne. I'm so glad that we were able to have him on, that you were able to talk to him, and we get some practical advice and knowledge from someone that's in it right now, a local pastor in a small to mid-sized church. Yep. That was incredible.
All right, since you weren't a part of that interview conversation, wrap up the episode, bring us home.
All right. Well, we hope this has been beneficial to you as we've talked about tech for small budgets or no budgets, and we've kind of focused on that small to medium-sized church. Again, if you have more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can catch us on our Instagram channel, rebrand_pod. You can shoot us an email, rebrand@holston.org. You can always check out our latest episodes via video or the audio podcast on our website at rebrandpodcast.com, or check out the audio only version at any of the places where you enjoy listening to your podcast. So,
I'd just like to point out that in the past, I have occasionally had trouble listing off the names of social media and the website and the email.
are you sure you want to go here?
And the only reason Tim did it successfully is because he typed it out in the notes. Otherwise, he would have struggled just like I did.
So, the reason I typed this out in the notes is because I anticipated that you would be doing the outro, and I wanted to make sure you didn't screw it up this time.
That would be cheating. Anyway, until next time.
Smash that button, subscribe, watch, and let us know what we can do to help you. And definitely spend less money on tech and focus on your ministry.
Wow. Bye.